Kemi Badenoch's tenure as Conservative leader is rapidly becoming a case study in how not to manage a political crisis, a political organisation in crisis, how not to manage a political crisis and how not to manage politics. The rebellion within the Conservative campaign headquarters, CCHQ, is a symptom of a deeper fracture within the party, exacerbated by dwindling finances, ideological disunity, and a leader whose authority is increasingly questioned by both insiders, by voters, and by observers. And Badenoch has inherited a party infrastructure that was, by all accounts, in a shambles, and following the catastrophic general election defeat, CCHQ was already hemorrhaging staff and resources. People in the organisation were sort of sacked on a whim. Morale was low, funding was even lower, with major donors withholding cash because of uncertainty about Badenoch's future and her attempts to crack the whip, telling staff that they must do better or leave, were met with palpable resentment, and many people did leave. The situation reached a boiling point where a second round of voluntary redundancies was announced, with CCHQ pared down to as few as 60 staff from its pre-election 450, and the office at Matthew Parker Street, the symbolic heart of the Conservative operation, now risks being lost because of cost-cutting measures, raising fears that Reform UK might seize the opportunity to take over the premises, an outcome the one party official half-jokingly suggested would warrant booby-trapping the building. The real issue is that Badenoch does not command confidence, even among her own party, and a recent YouGov poll revealed that only 14% of Britons see her as a Prime Minister in waiting. Even among Conservative voters, nearly half, that's 48%, don't believe that she looks like a viable leader. Worse still, among those she is most desperate to win over, Reform UK supporters, 73% prefer Nigel Farage over her. While Badenoch's team insists that she's engaged in the long-term renewal strategy, her internal critics argue that she lacks any clear narrative. She has also alienated key figures in the party, and her decision to appoint Robert Jenrick as Shadow Justice Secretary has been particularly contentious, with some accusing him of undermining her by constantly pushing his own agenda. The Conservative Party is financially on the brink. CCHQ's running costs sit at approximately £20 million per year, but in the first quarter, post-election, the party managed to raise only £3.2 million. Major donors are sitting on their wallets, waiting for a possible leadership challenge from figures like James Cleverly or Robert Jenrick. And even Badenoch's direct appeals to business leaders have fallen as flat as a, I was going to say as flat as a pancake, but I think more likely as flat as a cowpat. Her meeting with Middlesbrough Football Club owner Steve Gibson ended with him wanting to discuss football regulations rather than donations. With traditional Tory donors hesitant, in other words, Badenoch has attempted to shift fundraising efforts towards middle-class professionals earning six figures outside London. And this strategy has yet to pay dividends, and the party continues to struggle to maintain even basic operations. All signs point to the May local elections being a bloodbath for the Conservatives. Internal projections suggest the party could lose half of its council seats, and Nigel Huddleston, the party's co-chairman, has privately admitted that only one Tory council may survive. The Conservatives' approach appears to be one of damage limitation: depress expectations as much as possible, suffer the inevitable losses, and claim things weren't as bad as they feared. But this strategy carries a severe risk. It could reinforce the narrative that Reform UK is the true opposition to Labour, not the Tories. And the party's survival beyond 2027 depends on winning back voters defecting to Reform. Yet Badenoch's dismissive attitude towards the party suggests that she doesn't fully grasp the scale of the threat. There is another route that she could move in, of course. She could go back towards the centre and pick up the voters who are toying with the Lib Dems, or simply with never voting again. And I know plenty of people in that position. Badenoch's battle with CCHQ is indicative of a leader desperate to reassert authority, or to assert authority. but lacking the political capital to do so effectively. Rather than rallying her troops, she's demoralised them, pushing them towards resignation rather than loyalty, and her criticism of CCHQ as ineffective, as a bureaucratic relic, might contain some truth, but her scorched earth approach, publicly chastening staff and forcing redundancies, has further destabilised an already fragile operation. Her only hope for survival now lies in proving that she can offer a compelling alternative to both Labour and Reform UK. But to judge by Prime Minister's questions, disaster, it's going to be a disaster! I don't see that she offers anything, except for the opportunity to quit. If everyone else is quitting, maybe she will follow suit. She probably thinks that by cutting the dead weight at CCHQ, she's actually doing something positive, but she should be rebuilding the party's campaign infrastructure, a task that she's barely begun to do. And if there's any dead weight that she should be cutting, it's herself. With the donors holding back, with activists defecting, with CCHQ staff openly rebelling, the real question is not whether Badenoch can turn things round, but whether she will even last long enough to try. Because I think even speculating that she can hang on to May is being overly optimistic.